Good day around the world, everybody. I'm John Ellis, and welcome to We the People. Tonight, We the People meet Randy Bryce. Randy is running in Wisconsin's 1st District against Paul Ryan, which is a wonderful thing for most people at this point. Very happy about that. And I'm going to read a little blurb from his website and then just tell you what I think of this. I think it's wonderful. Randy Bryce is an Army veteran, cancer survivor, union ironworker. He joined the race for Wisconsin's 1st Congressional District because his values are our neighbors' values. And Washington has gotten way off track, which I think we can all agree on. He's running against House Speaker Paul Ryan. He's got a great campaign ad, which has gone viral. It's got more than 450,000 views and counting. And he's been on numerous MSM channels, and which is wonderful for any Bernie crowd, which I would consider Randy at this point. He's running on a Democratic ticket. And his tagline is the best since Feel the Burn, in my opinion. And that is, I decided to run for office because not everyone is seated at the table, and it's time to make a bigger table. And I think we can all agree, although Paul Ryan would say that means bigger government, and we don't want that, of course. But Randy Bryce, thank you so much for joining us on We the People today.
Well, thanks for the invitation to be here. It's a pleasure to talk with you.
Awesome. And I mean, we were just talking before we went live. You really are. You have been on the cover of, or not cover, but you have been in GQ,
right?
And your right. Twitter handle is Iron Stache, and your mustache seems to have risen to fame.
Yes,
right?
It has. It has.
And are you aware that there is a meme stash on Facebook, a group? Just
I met that person. I got a message from him yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Awesome.
I joined it. I liked it. Why not?
I have the best one of it. I'm just gonna show that right now. This is Stacheism, not fascism.
Right.
That's my favorite so far.
I've seen that. That was good.
That one's great. And everybody, before we continue, I just want to remind you, we have the lovely Laura Livengood with us today. Say hi, Laura.
Hello, everybody. I will be your comment mistress today. Behave.
So we will be stopping a few times during this engagement broadcast to answer your questions that you have for Randy Bryce. Right now, I'm going to start with a question for Randy. Basically, I was running through some of the material that we had talked about, prior to the show, and there was a link to a speech you had done in 2015 regarding Act 10, and it was about supporting unions versus the right to work, which is the Republican words for we want to take your ability to have a union, right?
Right. Well, that was right to work was after Act 10 when they went after private sector unions. But yeah, that was, and we knew it was coming. Walker said it'd never make it to his desk, and as soon as he said that, we knew that it was headed to his desk.
Exactly. That's usually how it works, isn't it? We're learning that. So was that your first action as a political activist, or was that what got you involved? No.
We were involved. The ironworkers had the first protest after Act 10 was announced. It was announced. I was driving home. It was winter on a Friday, and I pulled up my driveway. I got a phone call that was like, hey, Scott Walker is going to be dropping this bomb. It wasn't called that then. Now it has been. But we were told that Act 10 was going to take place, and it was an attack on all the public sector unions. So we knew, it was like an attack on one is an attack on all. So
right.
We were like, we're going to have to do something. We didn't know what. We figured it was going to be either the two brothers. It was Jeff Fitzgerald was the Speaker for the Assembly, and Scott Fitzgerald was the Senate leader. The brothers, and they put the Fitz in Fitz Walker stand. That was what we called Wisconsin for a while during Act 10. And we ended up deciding to march to Jeff Fitzgerald's house because he lived in a more urban. It was easily accessible through the city and the sidewalks and everything. So 2 days after Act 10 was announced, that was my first actual action.
Wow. You just got up and moved.
Right. We did. We had 250 people within a couple of days marching through downtown Horicon.
Wow, that's incredible. And when did you start feeling the burn? Because you are a Bernie surrogate, or were a Bernie surrogate, correct?
Right. Well, I really liked him even before, because he had come out to talk there's a Fighting Bob Fest in Wisconsin that has progressive leaders, and like John Nichols is there every year.
Oh, cool.
And Bernie came out afterwards. And I mean, I was upset because I remember President Obama talking about wherever collective bargaining rights are under attack, I'll put on my comfortable pair of shoes and
Right.
I'll be marching. And it never happened. But I'll never forget that Bernie showed up there and he talked, you know, I was like, who is this guy? That was the first time I ever heard him. And it was like, you know, instantly, this guy is just fantastic. And then when he ran for president, it was it was very noticeable because here was a guy that was going on, you know, doing stuff that I did, going and standing on picket lines, and just, you know, his whole message was just fantastic.
Yeah. And he'd been doing it for 30 years. And
Right.
that to me, I mean, he woke me up. I'm 47 and it was May of 2015. I saw him announce and then promptly watched nobody talk about it on mainstream media. Right. And said, if this guy can be at it for 30 years and do what he does, I can do something now. You know? And so you ran for office. You ran for 2 different positions already.
Right. The first time was for state assembly, and that was the assembly minority leader, Peter Barca. He asked me, it was his job just to get as many people to run as he could. So I mean, that was it. So he asked me, he's like, Randy, I think you'd be great running for assembly. And I didn't realize at the time that he was asking just about anybody and everybody that he talked to in different districts. So I was like, wow, he must really think I can do something. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then I came to find out that the county party had a woman running. Her name was Melissa. And I was like, you know, and because I was labor, I wasn't really as involved with the Democratic Party as an organized entity.
Sure.
But they had her, and she went through Emerge, through the program that trains female candidates. And so she knew everything that was going on. And I'm learning, you know, as I go along. I had a couple of friends that were helping me, but she worked her butt off. And it was hard because I liked her.
Right.
You know? I like everything about her. It never got negative. I was like, I wanted to win, but once she did win the primary, then, you know, we sat down and I was like, well, this is what was working for me. And I made sure that everybody that had endorsed me, especially, you know, the labor groups, that they got behind her. I was like, she's really a good candidate and she'll do great. She went on, she lost because it was a pretty gerrymandered district. And then I ran for state senate in 2014. This was Senator Wirch, who was in the 22nd district. He asked me, he gave me a call and he was like, Randy, I want to talk to you on Saturday about running for state senate. And I was like, okay, I've been through this before. So I went and met with them and we were talking. I was like, you know what this district looks like. It was one of the most heavily gerrymandered districts in the state. But he was talking about, he's like, well, there's this Act 10, not Act 10, I'm sorry. This John Doe. We think this John Doe thing is going to blow up for Walker, and we want to have a good candidate there when it does. It never did come to fruition. But I was still, you know, I'm like, even if it doesn't, it's going to give me an opportunity to get a message out to people. Mary Burke was running against Scott Walker at the time. Oh, and I saw it as an opportunity also to help get her message out. So I knew what the probable outcome was going to be if John Doe didn't take place. And it did. But I mean, I learned a lot from both of those experiences. So I mean, you can say vote wise, yeah, it was a loss. But as far as experience wise, it taught me, I mean,
wow. Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. I didn't have to say a word because I just want to show you this. Everybody that's talked about you, all the papers, all the articles, even GQ, whoever it is, except for the Washington Post, has had mostly complimentary things to say. Great ad. Look at this guy, right? Here's the title of the Washington Post article. This union ironworker wants Paul Ryan's job. He's got a great ad, but a losing record. Right? And listening to you explain, put context to that. I mean, I'm just beginning that process that you described for your first run, where somebody, Justin Bryce, is like, "Hey, John, you should run to be on a Oregon SEC," and I filled out the forms to be a PCP, and I haven't done any of the actual legwork in that, right? So I understand when somebody comes by and says, "You should do this," and the fact that, I mean, that's an honest response. You recognize that somebody else was running, they knew more of what they were doing there, and you ended up helping them. That's a very different narrative than what a headline reads about you when they say 2 losses, right?
Right. Well, and also that was taken from Associated Press, which was the AP story was one of the first to come out, and they ran with that. I saw it and I was like, well, this is kind of crappy.
Yeah.
But it's if that's the biggest attack they have on me, then,
right now,
I don't even see. Yeah, right. I really don't even consider it an attack. It's a fact. But without explaining what went into it. So
right.
It's a fair assessment. I don't have a problem with it.
But I guess, yeah, I mean, I understand where they're going with it. I think it's fantastic because to supporters, to people who are looking for you to vote for you, they say, look, he's seasoned. And if I were to say anything about what you've learned, the campaign ad is an example.
Well, yeah.
Right.
And that's exactly it too. Because if somebody starts taking me down that road, they're like, well, look, you've lost, and so what do you have to say that can have people think that you're going to be successful? And I'm like, a video.
Try this. Paul Ryan doesn't have one with 450,000 views.
Right. And it's like now I found out, I can't remember which who I was talking to, but they pointed out the fact that if you type in Paul Ryan into Google, my name comes up. So
That's beautiful. I mean, everybody's in there. I'm looking at the chat here, and we're going to see if do we have any questions yet, Laura?
We do indeed.
Okay, we're going to cut to some questions in a second, but I just want to tell you, everybody in chat is pointing out saying the Washington Post is an establishment paper. Jeff Bezos owns the paper, and he is very not for unions, right? I mean, that's a fact, right? But you're going to have to walk within that world. We'll talk about A.M. Joy Reid a little later. Laura Live and Good, tell me what we have in chat.
We have in chat. Hotspot News wants to know, Mr. Bryce, are you swearing off corporate money, a la Bernie Sanders?
I'm swearing off all of the money from Wall Street. I'm not accepting any of that. But I'm not going to turn down money from causes that I support. I mean, I'm not going to take from people that are destroying things and making our life uninhabitable. I'm not going to take things from them. But I mean, we do stuff with PNC Bank or there's the Bank of Labor that they support unions, and they build wherever they put up a new building, a new facility, they use unions. So it's not I'm not going to take any penny from Goldman Sachs or
absolutely
AAG or anything along those lines. So no.
National Nurses United to me would be a great example of a union first group that is could donate money to the cause and be a PAC essentially.
Right.
And I think that's one of the definite
and my goal would be, once elected, would be for public financing of campaigns. So give every candidate a certain amount and let them use the same amount on both sides. That would be my goal. But to handcuff myself now and say I'm not going to take any money from any company, I think would be kind of foolish if we're going after somebody like Paul Ryan.
That's a practical response. Any other questions, Laura Livengood?
Yeah, Ashley wants to know what your impressions are of the other Democratic candidates that are running. Democratic candidates.
I'm just focused on going after Paul Ryan. I have nothing negative to say about either of them. I think that it's great that other candidates want to get rid of Paul Ryan. I'm counting on my strong community roots and actions that I've taken, especially within the last, since 2011. People know what I stand for. I don't have to make promises on what I'm going to do or what I stand for. People know where I've been.
Yeah. I think we're seeing that. I mean, you've got a record now. You've run for office twice. You've been doing things in the community. You're active. You're seasoned. We needed somebody like that to run against a Paul Ryan who's got $10 million right now. We're not even near the election cycle, and he's got, you've got to reach that money, and he'll have tens of more millions than that, right? Mm-hmm. How important is money in this campaign? I mean, really, what do you think you're going to need?
It's really important. But within like the first 24 hours, people sent in over $100,000.
That's incredible. That's
So
incredible.
and right now, the last time I looked, it was probably like yesterday. We had over 10,000 people donate, and the average contribution was right around $28. And it's funny seeing a check for like $27 because it's like who they voted for.
Yeah, exactly. I did a lot of $27 donations, so I know what you mean. That's good.
That's cool to see. But yeah, it's going to be. And I'm not. There's no illusion that I'm going to outraise him. I'm not going to try to outraise him. I'm not going to try to get over the $10 million that he has.
Right.
It's going to be a people-powered campaign. I've been getting, people are asking when can I come? Can I knock doors and stuff like that from Illinois, from Madison. So it's as long as I get enough to get a message out, I'll be good. I'm not worried about outspending him or outraising him. That's not my biggest focus.
Nice. Because really, if you have the groundwork going and people knocking on doors, making phone calls, that's with where Paul sits now. I would think that's better than money to have people knocking on doors.
Absolutely.
Let's watch a little clip from Lawrence O'Donnell here. I love what you have to say about Paul Ryan. Then we'll get back to that. Talk about his 2 jobs that apparently he's not capable of managing.
Okay.
In new measures designed to mitigate
Randy
the potential
Bryce,
threat
the ironworker.
of
He's
insider
now the
attacks.
Democratic candidate running against Representative Paul Ryan for that House seat in Wisconsin. This is his first national interview. Randy, welcome to the show. Thank you for doing this. We were all quite struck by that campaign announcement video that you released with your candidacy. And as soon as we saw it, we played it here. We wanted to talk to you about your candidacy. So you watched Paul Ryan win re-election with a 35-point winning margin, and you thought, I think I'll run against him.
Why not? Why not?
Okay.
I first of all, thank you for having me tonight, Lawrence. If you want to see something that's really impossible, I have a hard hat you can borrow, and I'll take you onto a job site in a construction area downtown Milwaukee. If you want to, what we do is oftentimes considered impossible. And I think as a result of our launch, it was so successful, and it's just a testament to working people wanting to be heard. They see me as being them, and that's exactly why I'm doing this.
What do you think Paul Ryan is getting wrong in representing his district? Because he's got 2 different jobs. He's got the job of being speaker and trying to run that whole party in the House. And then he has another job, which can very often be in conflict, and that is to be the representative from that district.
Well, he's not representing anybody in the district. He's been absent. He hasn't been in the district for over 600 days. But he does have time to appear at 50 fundraisers where you can pay $10,000 to have your picture taken with him. He's not doing anything for the people of the 1st Congressional District. And we're upset that we're not being heard. And whatever he's doing in Washington, it's taking away things from us. We're working twice as hard, and we're getting less to show for it.
Judging by your campaign announcement video, your #1 issue seems to be, at this point, health care. Why is that the #1 issue for you?
It's an intergenerational issue. I have a son who's a miracle child. I was told I probably wouldn't be able to have children after being diagnosed with cancer. I have to worry about cancer coming back for me. I have to worry about my son going to play on a jungle gym where I have to worry about him getting hurt or just letting him be a kid. And it affects my mother, who obviously is the star of the video. And not shown in the video is my father, who has Alzheimer's. And my mom's medication, thankfully she has insurance that gives her the independence to be able to visit my dad on a daily basis. So, and I consider ourselves lucky because we have insurance, and it shouldn't be a matter of have and have-nots. It's a basic right for everybody that we should be able to go see a doctor, to be healthy, to live fulfilling lives.
I'm gonna stop it there because that really hit home with me. I've in not even close to similar situations, but family members that are going to lose health care based on what the Republicans are trying to do. Paul Ryan spends more time right now working on that, trying to convince Republicans or buy Republicans to sign on to this thing. Why? I mean, it has to be the most primary issue right now for us because, as you said, it should be a basic healthcare right. Why is there such a division in the Democratic Party with Democrats on that? Why?
That's a good question. I think What the question is to how to cover everybody. Some people that think it's safe to try to patch up Obamacare, and my concern with that is I'm not, like I said, if there's somebody that's freezing and they just have this sheet keeping them, that's their protection against the elements. I don't want to take the sheet, rip it away from them, and make them lay out there without anything until we get a blanket to them. There are protections that I think need to be in place until we get, to a single payer system. But I think there's a real fear, and I know from like even union leadership, you get a lot of guys that get into office, they get elected, and they just want to keep things as is because it's easy to just keep things, the status quo as it is. It's a lot less work, it's a lot less thinking, and it's when you get elected to a spot, it's you have to figure out how things work. And I mean, providing healthcare for everybody seems to be quite a big thing to take on. But at the same time, if you look at, our history, United States history, every country that we've had a military conflict with has some kind of universal healthcare. So if it's good enough for everybody else, why isn't it good enough for us?
You bring up such a great point overall. It seems like we go into countries to spread democracy, and they end up with better democracies than we have currently.
Right.
Can we invade ourselves is the question.
Exactly. And the amount of money that we spend on each bomb blowing the other places up, and then sending no bid contractors in there to fix it, it's crazy.
Yeah, the amount of money Halliburton lost alone is insane. And you're a vet,
right?
And I'm just going to come right out with it. Where do you stand? I mean, if elected, will you take a stand on the military budget, the military-industrial complex?
Oh, absolutely. We were warned about it a long time ago, and it's right, exactly. His outgoing speech,
That's why
it laid it out.
That's why it was outgoing for a reason.
Right. True. But I mean, you look at our budget, and then how many countries below us it takes to add up to get to where we're at. Our military is unbelievably strong, and I think for me personally, the best way to destroy an enemy is to make them into a friend.
Oh yeah, agreed. Although I'm not sure we could say that with what 45's doing with Putin at this point.
True. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that everybody wants to be our friend, and there are people that want to do us harm, and I think we have every right to defend ourselves in a quite aggressive manner when that happens. But we don't need all this money that we're spending. When kids are hungry in our country, right, and we have enough money to buy a new bomb, to research a new bomb, to kill kids in other countries, that something just basically doesn't seem right there.
No, and the sad thing about that is, I'm a child of the 80s, born 1970, and I remember the same conversations in the 80s. Right? Mm-hmm. Why do we need a military this big? We've got kids on the streets. Remember the bumper sticker? Wish the military would have to have a bake sale to buy a B-2 bomber.
Right. And another thing too that really bothers me. I also consider myself a veteran activist. Is how our veteran. And shortly after I got out of the Army, I worked with homeless vets, and that was really eye-opening.
Wow.
That at the time, 60% of the homeless population was made up of veterans. It's gone down now. It's a lot less, but still, homeless and veterans should never be in the same sentence.
No.
So if you want to spend all this money sending us to war, you need to spend an equal amount on us when we get back. Taking care of us physically and mentally.
I never understood why the care of veterans seemed to stop the moment they got home.
Right.
I never understood that. Speaking of vets, and moving into a different subject that's close to my heart because I have epilepsy and I use cannabis to treat it. How do you feel about cannabis?
I would sign anything that would decriminalize it right away. There's no reason I don't see it as being more harmful than alcohol. I was just talked to a couple of friends that are on a radio program that they, you can kind of tell where they lean when they're like, we're going to take our 420 break right now.
Never happens here.
They asked me the same thing, and I'm like, I can see stock in Taco Bell going up and stuff like that. But I think there's we have a problem with opioid addiction. I see that as an issue. Addressing that and treating people, not, throwing them in jail. And once they get that tag that they're in jail, it's hard for them to reassimilate back into society. They've got that tag. They have that tag on them.
Absolutely. Are you familiar with restorative justice at all?
I can't say that I know specifics on it.
I'm going to get you connected with Longmont and Longmont Restorative Justice Practice, but it's basically that idea of a community holistic justice where the victim, the offender, and the community get together to discuss how we resolve what's gone wrong, how we right the wrongs, and how do we reintegrate this human being, if we agree that can happen, into society, right?
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That really is.
Yeah.
And also, I know too, I've been involved with, as far as building trades go, I'm really proud of the fact that, when we take somebody in, there's not that, I've been a proponent of ban the box, filling it out so you don't have to, are you a felon? And there's that box to check. And if you are, they throw your application away. For us, in the building trades and the ironworkers, it's, where do you want to go? Not where have you been? Where do you want to go? You want to be successful? Because if you don't offer employment, and good employment, how is somebody supposed to support themselves? And, especially if they have a family, that's just wrong.
No, absolutely. By the way, I was listening to your description of the training that the union provides. That was intensive, and I'm thinking, gosh, I wish we had that kind of intensive training for our police officers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just go a second on gun control. We've seen a couple issues here. Obviously, we got a problem in America with guns, and I'm not I don't own one, but I don't have a problem with people owning them. Where do you stand on gun control? What do you think should be done there, and how do we control the level of violence with our police?
That's kind of tough. I think that for starters, as far as like anybody purchasing a gun, that loophole needs to be closed, that somebody can just go to a gun show and pick one up without any questions asked. We need to make sure that people that are buying them are responsible. Because if you look at the gun violence that's been committed, it's not, another thing to look at too is it's been guys. It hasn't been women that have been shooting places up. So just looking at statistics, it's who's doing it. Right. And as far as the police go, my dad's a retired cop, and he was never, I don't know if it was just his nature, but I would hear from my friends, they're like, "Oh, your dad pulled me over. He was so nice. He's not a typical cop. He just, often let him go." But that's kind of a tough question if you ask me.
It is.
As far as how is that? I would say that that needs to be included in training, and it seems like I hear too many stories about people that are unarmed getting shot, and I've seen videos, that people try to go and it's like put yourself in the cop's spot, like somebody going to pull out their wallet, it looks like they're pulling a gun. It's a really tough position, and like I said, I know from my dad being a retired cop, I have all the respect in the world for the police officers. But what I don't have respect for are other police officers standing up for cops that don't belong to be, on the force.
Wow. Thank you for saying, you hit one of the things that bugs me the most. I just want to say, I remember growing up that cops were nice. Mm-hmm. And I'm afraid today at 47, I shouldn't be. Right. And I think really what we have is a disconnect between the community and the police force. And we look around the world at other police forces in the way they are trained, and they have a relationship with that community.
Exactly. And that's a fantastic issue that you brought up, because in Racine, they have a thing, the police chief here instituted, is like this community policing, where they went and they took a building in an area where there was a higher crime rate, and the police are there, and it's the same police working in the same areas, so they build a relationship with the community. Right. And the crime rate has gone down dramatically. So I think you hit it right on. That was a bullseye right there as far as how to go about more with the police community relations. I think that's the way to go.
So yeah, so I mean, maybe the question I should have phrased been: would you support legislation that would say, look, we need to put some money into an effort for community policing, some training around those lines, de-escalate the violence, make the. I was reading a story, there's a recent story in Seattle about cops that had they basically shot a woman she had mental health issues. She was wielding a knife. They feared for their safety and they shot her. Okay, which is a typical story. They fear for their safety and they shoot a person. But it was, do you tase them? And in the audio, and the one officer said, I don't have a taser. They have a choice of carrying one of 3 non-lethal weapons. To me, that right there is a problem with procedure. Things like that could be redone in training to where the taser is really the more important option, and you have backup on that with a non-lethal weapon in a situation with mental health issues, right?
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, good.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. Laura, do we have any other questions of the audience?
Yeah, climate is near and dear to our hearts, and we have questions about what is your position on fracking and climate change in general?
Nice. Well, I see that there's a lot of opportunity for jobs, rebuilding our infrastructure, being in the building trades. I think that our problem is being dependent on fossil fuels. That, if we want to get to the root of the problem, we can chop off branches and like not have a pipeline here or, start fracking in an area. But the big problem I see is a lack of renewable resources. And there's so many options for, jobs there. Right now, we can't build wind turbines in Wisconsin. That's a lot of work for members of the building trades, and seen them in other states. But for whatever reason, the Wisconsin Republicans have chosen, no, we can't do it. They're too loud, or whatever their reasons are for coming up for it.
Yeah, guessing it has to do with their connection with the fossil fuel industry, but
possibly
they could call it too loud, I suppose. I didn't even know that. So they banned windmills. How's your solar program? Any solar program?
Well, there's some on houses. It's not a big thing. I just worked on it was like a 44-story building in downtown Milwaukee that has like green space on top of it where they planted a lot of plants.
Rooftop garden, very cool.
Right. And it's not, you're not going to go picking tomatoes or anything up there, but just looking, and it helps. It's not like a black surface that's radiating the sun back up. And it looks cool too.
Right.
There.
It looks better than black tar any day.
Right.
It's really that's a great thing. Any other questions, Laura?
Yes. Hold on just a second. Any key deadlines you've got coming up that we should be aware of to help you, fundraising wise, or things that are coming up?
Tomorrow at midnight is a deadline. We put out like a 48-hour deadline earlier today. That's the end of the quarter. And originally we had set, we wanted to get like $50,000. That was our goal. But within the first 20 hours, we blew by it pretty good.
Nice. Raise that bar.
and actually, I was told today from one of the guys helping me that we would be number 2 anywhere this quarter, just based on what we brought in.
Oh, that's badass.
Anybody in Congress. So
that's incredible. Wonderful. Okay, so we have till tomorrow night to close the quarter with donations. Right. Knock it out of the park, everybody.
Well, actually, no. I think I want to say Friday night.
Okay.
I'm all confused.
All right.
My lack of sleep is starting to show.
Oh man, I know.
We just got an extra day. That's exciting.
We're gonna cover one more thing, and then we're gonna let you run a stump speech and get you out of here because I know you've got so much to do and you're on the East Coast, and I really appreciate all the hard work. And you have to work your jobs, right? It's not like Paul, who gets to pose for some pictures for 10 grand a pop, and
Right. Yeah. My iron the iron I pump does not involve dumbbells.
I gotta say, it's such a poser picture.
See what you did there. That was good.
That was nice. And I don't think he could last 10 seconds on a construction job at all.
I'd love to see him.
Oh
you
my
should
God.
take the challenge. We're gonna just hit this. we talked about it earlier, and you were talking about a person you had worked with on dealing with these issues. You were recently on AM Joy with Joy Reid, and it was a pleasant interview, and I was reading some of the comments in Twitter underneath, and it seemed nice enough. I didn't see the whole interview, so I don't know really what was said, but I just want to remind everybody who knows Joy that she slams on Bernie Sanders followers. Now, we talked about this earlier, and you had a great story about that. So I just want you to get a chance to tell that.
Right. Well, I had a little concern before talking to her. We had a real brief exchange on Twitter, and it was great. I'm always optimistic when I talk to somebody that I haven't talked to before.
Sure.
But somebody was over in the area and said that they talked to her, and they were like, "So you're gonna talk to Randy Bryce?" And she was like, "Oh, I love the Iron Stache." So I got a text that I was like, "She likes you," and I was like, "Cool, that'll work."
That's cool.
Well, she likes your mustache, so
Yeah.
beware.
Well, Don Lemon really liked my mustache. Really, he did during the when I was on CNN during the break. He was asking for, and I just heard a voice. I didn't know it was him.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, because you can't see. You just look at the camera. The lens is pointed at you, and you're like, they tell you, look at the lens, like it's
right.
their face. So and there's producers and sound people in your ear and stuff like that talking. So I didn't know it was him, and I just heard a voice like, "So you're really going to do this? You're serious about this?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm serious." And it was like, "So tell me, what do you do with the mustache?" And I was like, I just started cracking up. It was good because it put me at ease and stuff. And then he asked me too later at the end of the segment. I was like, well, come and watch the election results, and I'll tell you the secret.
Nice. The secret to the Iron Stache.
Right.
That'll be a whole drama around that. Big ratings grab for whoever.
Right, sure.
But we talked. So that's a cool story because I was talking about that. You're a Bernie Sanders supporter, slamming the Bernie Sanders people, and what we were talking about really was not so much bashing MSM, but the idea that they have an opportunity here to regain integrity with the people, and I brought up the Fairness Doctrine and the 1996 Telecommunications Act, and you mentioned that you had been working on dealing with two GOP radio stations, correct? Right.
I've done stuff with Sue Wilson, who's with the Media Action Center, and what we did during the recall, because there was something in place called the Zapple Doctrine, which states that I'm not sure if it was 30 or 60 days before an election, that if somebody is given airtime, to talk about their campaign, promote it, and stuff like that,
right,
you can contact them and demand equal time that they spent. So what we did was we had somebody with a stopwatch listen to a couple of shows and document every many minutes they were talking about Scott Walker running for governor.
Nice.
And then we send them emails every afternoon. It was like, "Hey, I noticed you were talking about Scott Walker's campaign. I'm a Tom Barrett supporter. I'd like, equal time under the Zapple Doctrine." And one of the radio stations would return our message and say, sorry, but no. The other one just blew us off. So then when it came time to renew their license, we filed with the FCC stating that they were in violation of the Zapple Doctrine.
Nice.
The FCC came back and said nothing for a while, and then Sue got a hold of them again, and they're like, "What are you talking about? We never got any information." And then Sue was able to prove. She's like, "I sent these emails to you, and
wow,
this took place here and here," and they ended up ruling against us. But it was
really,
yeah, it was. And then she found out too that she could have taken it a step higher. But she's been real involved with it. You really need to check her stuff out. Sue Wilson from the Media Action Center. She's in California now. She'd be a fantastic resource for helping you learn about this subject, because she taught me everything I know about it.
Great.
And she was even able to shut down a radio station, I think it was in Sacramento, to get their license denied to them after they had like some kind of stunt where somebody drank too much water and ended up dying as a result.
Oh, holy cow. Wow. That's crazy.
But yeah, so she's got this group, and I'm sure she'd love to talk to you about it.
That's fantastic. I'd love to bring her on a show.
I'm on it.
Thank you.
I'm on
Yes. And the question there for you is if elected, would you work to revise the laws we have now governing our news stations? I mean, they used to have an obligation to have fair and balanced news because they shared the airwaves. And what would you do to change there?
Well, I like the fairness doctrine when it was in place. And as I stated earlier, I like public funding of elections just so it's equal, and it shouldn't be, elections shouldn't be an auction, and there shouldn't be gerrymandering where the representatives choose who elects them. There's just so much wrong with how people are chosen to represent us now, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm running, is because Paul Ryan is out collecting money and he's completely blowing off the people in our district.
Right. He's at fundraisers.
Right.
600 days, right? You said.
And just think how much time he would be able to have to listen to us or to actually pay attention to our concerns if he didn't need to raise money. He could actually do his job.
All of them could. That's one thing.
Absolutely.
You've heard it from other politicians, and I don't know how. I'm hoping that if elected, you find a way to avoid this or stay out of this paradigm. But the whole going and dialing for dollars, where they spend the vast majority of their time in these cubicles.
Right. Well, I'm going to be spending my time. I'll have my amount of time too, calling people begging for money. That I'm really not looking forward to. But when I see Paul Ryan and what he's been doing, it's I'll have a picture of my son in front of me,
right.
And it's like I'm asking. It's not just for me; it's for his future. It's something I don't like to do, and I'd love to see it be gone from the election process altogether.
Absolutely. We need to get money, private money, any money out of it, and it should be publicly funded.
And another thing too is, people will say, well, what about union money? And I'm like, I'd like to see that money gone too. Unions could use their money for better things than, and it's not dues that is used, but they have PAC funds, and I'm sure that could be diverted to doing something proactive within the community. So
right.
It's not just the dark money that I want to see out. It's all money. I want to see equal, fair elections for everybody.
Right. And you look at even the UK elections, they have a guy running the Dark Lord who has equal representation in their, or Lord Helmet, or I don't even know, Lord Buckethead, I think was his name. But he's standing
right.
there amongst all the candidates because he's given equal representation and equal airtime and equal opportunity to be there,
Mm-hmm.
That's scary
right.
when you can see that and know that here in America, we can't even run a great candidate who's serious without having tens of millions of dollars.
Right.
It's just ridiculous.
Because now even if they have the best message, if they don't have the money to get it out, who knows that they have the best message?
Right. And then even if they have the money, we have to deal with corruption within the system, which is another reason you're in there altogether, right?
Right.
All right, Randy, thank you so much for being on. I'm going to give you a few minutes. Hit a stump speech. Tell us why we should vote for you and what you need people to do to help you win. And then we're going to ask you why you picked your end song and go out of here with a tune. All right.
Well, the whole thing, it's laid out in my the video that we had made, and I need to give a shout out to the fabulous creators of that, the guys that actually made the video.
Oh yeah.
And I thanked them, and I said, thank you guys for the great job you did on the video after it was released. I'm like, and this is all your fault, by the way, too. But, so shout out to the guys that actually did the work in the video.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
And it's all laid out in there, why I'm doing it. I tell other people, too, that they ask, why are you so successful? And I say, it's not that I just invented or, created electricity or founded the internet. It's a basic message. And the reason it blew up is because we don't have enough people like us in the government that we can count on. There's too often people are looking, well, who can I trust? Who is kind of like me? Who's going to kind of support me the best? Well, that person's you. People are asking me, they're like, Randy, anybody in this district where I live in? And I'm like, you live in it, right? Why don't you run? This isn't, it's not about me or me being anything special or, doing anything special or having any special ideas. It's just a sincere desire for people like me to have a voice. That's all I care about. And that's why I talk about building a bigger table. Right. We need to have more of us seated together, participating in life. And that's, it's like I said, it's just very basic. But people, haven't been heard. People want to be heard. And now they feel like they're being listened to. And I mean, the more voices we get together, the louder it's going to be. So I'm not doing this for me. And in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm kind of getting sucked into it. Like I don't, it's not a choice, you know, it's like just one thing after another. And it just feels so natural. I mean, and then talking about like being on national news shows,
Right.
I thought I was going to be all kinds of nervous, but I felt the strength from everybody that's sent a postcard saying, you know, that we need you. This is great that you're doing it. So I don't consider myself special in any way. I'm just a working guy who wants to stand up for other working people.
That's phenomenal. I think that's why you have the best chance ever against somebody like Paul Ryan, who doesn't know what a real working day is, in my opinion.
He drove the Wienermobile.
He did he? Did he drive
He
the
did.
Wiener? He did. I
He did
didn't
before he was elected.
Well, there you go. I know he also worked for Brownback, then senator, I believe, at
Yes.
the time.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
not much of a great thing to talk about, Mr. Trickle Down Kansas.
Right.
So thank you for that. I really, your honesty is what works. That's why Bernie was so successful, is because he was speaking from the heart. I feel that you speak from the heart, Randy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dropkick Murphys, Workers song. It's kind of obvious why you picked it, but you have a story?
I do. It was a song that, you know, they had Take the Bastards Down, which is also another thought. But I just have a real closeness with the Dropkick Murphys. I see them every time they come into town. Jeff Fitzgerald used one of their songs, like Shipping Up to Boston, who's the Republican Speaker of the House when he ran for Congress. And I got a hold of them. I was like, this Republican's using your song for his intro music. And they're like, oh, hell no. I was like, you guys want to make a statement? Yeah, we definitely will. So they came out with a statement saying that a Republican using their song was the same as a white supremacist coming out to hip hop.
Oh, geez. Nice. That's awesome. Well, hopefully they won't have a problem with you if you want to use one of their songs.
No, I hope not. They're fantastic. One of them donated to my campaign and retweeted about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It was the best. That made my day.
Randy Bryce, thank you for being on. Will you come back?
Anytime.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. A pleasure meeting both of you. It was
too.
great. A lot of fun.
All right,
Thank
here,
you.
everybody, the Dropkick Murphys. What do we got going on next week, Laura Live and Good?
Next week, we've got Stephen Jaffe's going to come in and talk about them exit and them enter and what the future holds. There's lots of questions that came out of the People Summit. So
Awesome.
we roped them in for another visit.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Remember, this is an engagement broadcast, so join us next week, and you can ask questions of Stephen Jaffe and support Randy Bryce. He needs us to help build that bigger table. It's going to take a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of footwork. It's going to take a lot of phone calls. It's going to take all of us. We are the democracy. Randy just volunteered to go be at the front of the table, but we got to build it for him. Dropkick Murphys, everybody. Workers song.
Yeah, this one's for the workers who toil night and day, by hand and by brain, to earn your pay, who for centuries on past for no more than your bread, have bled for your countries and counted your dead. In the factories and mills, in the shipyards and mines, we've often been told to keep up with the times.